Thanks for staying with us. All right, let's turn attention now to the new U.S. visa policy and how it affects Nigeria. The U.S. has imposed a partial travel ban on Nigerians and suspended entry for several visa categories. The new restrictions were published in a statement on White House website on Tuesday. The Donald Trump administration has imposed travel restrictions on Nigerians hoping to travel to the U.S., citing security concerns and difficulties in vetting nationals. The new restriction bars entry for Nigerians seeking to enter the U.S. as green card holders or on B1, B2, F, M, and J visas. This means Nigerians who hold visas for business, tourism, combined business and tourism, academic studies, vocational or non-academic studies, and exchange programs are now barred from entering the United States under the new restrictions. The U.S. raised the operations of radical Islamist groups in Nigeria and the persistent security crisis as some of the reasons for its decision. All right, let's bring in immigration attorney. He is Andrew Thomas. He joins me from the U.S., Massachusetts, to be specific. Good to have you join us. I seem to have had you, is it twice this week, on this issue of immigration policy or visa policy by President Trump. This is the latest one, and he's citing national security as the reason for this. I want to get your reaction before we move down specifically to Nigeria.
I believe so. Thank you, Precious, for having me once again. But before I address your question, we need to make a correction. You mentioned that green card holders are affected. If you are a citizen of one of those countries and you are a green card holder, you can go and come as you please. If you're already admitted inside the United States, this proclamation doesn't affect you, and it also doesn't affect some parolees and waiver eligible applicants. For example, those who are applying for immigration benefits, apply for a parole to travel to Nigeria, for example, it doesn't affect them as long as they stay on the safe side and return before January 1st, 2026, when the proclamation takes effect. The president or the U.S. government decided to issue this proclamation under the guise of restricting entry based on identity verification issues, integrity of passports, and some other reasons. And the president derives his authority from two sources: Immigration and Nationality Act sections 212, section F plus section 215, subsection A. It gives the president broad powers to suspend or restrict entry on any class of
visa. And I understand the F, M, and J. A lot of people are confused on what all of this means. We know it has to do with academic study visas, exchange programs, business and tourism. But explain this to us and what it means and how the implication of this for people who are seeking these categories of visas.
What it means is that even if you have a visa before January 1st, 2026, entry is not admitted, is not guaranteed. That's admission and inspection. That's what it's called. An officer of the Customs and Border Protection sees if you can be admitted. With this proclamation, you may not be admitted. So this affects generally new people who apply for visas who are from these 15 countries, including Nigeria. This affects people outside the U.S. seeking admission who already have a visa based on the B1, B2, F, M, and J. And the effects are going to be wide-ranging because the United States is hosting the World Cup, even though Nigeria may not have qualified. Nigeria supplies one of the highest numbers of foreign students to American colleges. That is also going to affect. So many people have ties to the United States by way of family, friends, and professional contacts. So I want to see how they will do this. But it's up to the Nigerian government and the governments involved to press, because in case you don't know, visa processing for U.S. consulates is funded by those who apply for visas. The USCIS, the agency who administers immigration benefits in the United States, is wholly funded from fees people pay for petitions. They only get 4% of funding from the US Congress. So let's see how this is going to play out and how long they will be able to hold up with this proclamation, which is always up for review within 180 days or every 6 months, as the case may be.
So this, I like that you mentioned the Nigerian government. I have a few minutes left and I want to speak to it because this is not the first time we're being included in some level of, some form of visa restriction or limitation. But as a government here in Nigeria, we've not seen the ability, to move the needle, whether by negotiation or by reciprocity. And I want to just to ask you what you think the limitations are, the challenges are on the Nigerian side.
Well, I wouldn't speak to the challenges of the Nigerian government because I don't work for them. But I think what they can do is leverage certain optics that favor the Nigerian government, because this is about governments and systems, and citizens or people who want to travel back and forth are the ones who are directly bearing the brunt. It's up to the Nigerian government to make sure that the processes are as transparent and have as much integrity as possible. The case of having non-state actors being a reason for vetting, there's really no basis for that, because practically there are non-state actors all parts of the world. So I don't see that as a basis to deny some countries from having their citizens move back and forth to the United States. It's up to the Nigerian government to make the systems more transparent, share more data, and press for the inclusion of Nigerians in decision making when it affects Nigerians, because Nigerians contribute a lot to the American economy, and that's a leverage for the government to speak to. But on my part as an attorney, I believe this proclamation can be challenged on any grounds. Even though the president has legal authority to declare it, it can be challenged on how it is applied, because it is an overbreadth. There are implementation errors. Why is it that there are about 26 African countries out of 39 countries? There are likely individual due process violations, because it's a case-by-case basis. You can't just put a blanket ban because people overstay visas. And there are likely issues of improper denial or waivers, because it is almost certain that when people show up, even before January 1st, they might still want to deny them entry, even though they have a valid parole to travel to see their family in Nigeria or in any of these countries affected. So on that basis, those four bases, this can be challenged in court. There's no doubt the president has authority and pretext to declare proclamation, but it's overbroad and it appears to have violated due process. So
I wish we could talk about the overstay of visa, but my time is up, because that's one of the major issues also highlighted in that document. Always a pleasure to have you on. A U.S. immigration attorney.
Thank you, Precious.
Andrew Thomas. All right, that's What Now. Remember, for the international stories we're monitoring, you can visit our website, www.tvcnews.tv. You can also follow us on our social media handles. We're on Facebook.